All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome, folks. Thank you all so much for coming out. What a day. I will say my birthday technically is tomorrow, but given that it's the 23rd, it's patch 2.3, and this also happens to be a patch that does several things that are directly applicable to me as a player. As an Empire slash Bretonia main, they got some significant buffs. Undead, which is my most hated faction type, got some significant nerfs, hopefully helping to accentuate the increased crumbling damage. They've now decreased leadership widely across a bunch of undead units, so we'll take a look at all of that here in just a moment. Just wanted to say, first of all, thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you all for the kind words. A bunch of you in chat. Salutes. Happy birthday. You guys are the best. Yeah, it's it's gonna be a good time. We'll definitely get some chuckles in Dov fashion. Absolutely. So yeah, it's a great patch. As is typical with these patches, for the last couple of patches, I would say they maybe didn't go quite far enough, in my opinion, on some things. But overall, I'm very happy with the changes. I've seen some interesting discussion about maybe the nature of the changes. I would say we'll get into that. A lot of what's being done here is cost balancing, which I think is mostly fine. It's a way to sort of balance multiplayer without upsetting too much of the single player quote unquote balance, which doesn't really exist, but it's perceived to exist, which is important for the community. So yeah, let's just get straight into the patch notes, guys. Thank you all so much. We're going to do some patch notes, then we'll jump in, might play a couple of land quick battles, maybe do some testing if I can wrangle in someone to help. But let's take a look here at patch 2.3. Hellstriders were nerfed. They did get a cost increase. And again, a lot of the changes here for multiplayer are cost-based changes. Some people have been saying it would be better to do stat-based changes. I agree in some cases it'd probably be a more elegant way to balance things. But at the same time, again, cost balancing is an easy way for them to kind of massage things a little bit without going too deep and also without upsetting other areas of the game. So, I would imagine medley, but here's the thing, and this might put me in a minority, but I also hate fighting undead in campaign, and there's probably other people who feel the same, especially on the higher difficulties where they get a lot of leadership buffs. Basically, they had entire unbreakable armies, and it made fighting them really uninteresting, in my opinion. So I actually think it's a good change for single player as well. Again, for a player like me who really doesn't like playing undead that much. I mean, yeah, doesn't like playing against them that much either. But yeah, mostly in the right direction. Pretty mild changes. But let's go ahead and take a look here. So they've got, this is a big one for people playing multiplayer campaigns. The endgame scenarios are now enabled for multiplayer campaigns. Definitely going to be a good time. New selection videos, landmarks have been ported over into campaign as well. Nice to see they're sort of slowly moving the game out of its beta phase and adding more of the features, what we'd expect based on the Warhammer 2, sort of Mortal Empires campaign. There's like some settlements have more building slots now, stuff like that. So some small sort of updates to the campaign, bring it more in line with what we would expect. We're going to skip a lot of the campaign changes. But yeah, you just see here, this is a multiplayer campaign. They do have the end game crises, which should be interesting. I was almost thinking like Khemri Battle Royale style, where you have, instead of the circle, closing like you would in, say, your typical Battle Royale game, you have the circle sort of emanating outwards from, like, the Tomb Kings, for example. If you enable the Tomb Kings end game and crank it all the way up to 200, put it for like turn 10, this is actually going to be a lot of fun for friends. But hey, thanks Raw Cauliflower for the tenor. I really appreciate that. Happy Nerf Day. That's great, actually. That's actually, yeah, happy Nerf Day to Undead. Oh, thank you. That gave me a good chuckle. Cool. So, yeah, some long overdue new videos. Anyway, campaign stuff, stability and performance, some crashes here. Savage Orc garrison buildings, very important. Yeah, so we're going to move on. One thing I will say, they've tuned down the AI's artillery dodging on higher difficulties, even, I think, Hey, another fiver from Andrew. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think now they're only supposed to dodge in settlements, if I read that right. It's somewhere in here. I don't know. You guys can go read this for yourselves if you want to look on more of the campaign changes. You're here mostly for multiplayers, so let's look at that. So crumbling, yes. Evil cackle, or should I say lawful evil cackle. Crumbling damage was increased in 2.2, but it was not sufficient. I agree. So they've now gone down and toned down leadership. You'll find specifics below. We'll take a look at those for a lot of undead units across all 3 undead factions. So they're meant to spend a longer amount of time in crumbling state, sort of having that slow death over time, which should be more effective. Again, I haven't played a lot of games in this 2.3 to tell you if this change is really impactful or not. My guess is, though, it is going to be significant. I mean, it's a like 5 to 10 leadership decrease across most undead units, which is pretty significant. So, yeah, and we'll talk more about Hellstriders Medley. I have sort of some thoughts on them. We'll get more into that when we get to them. Let's start with Bretonnia. So, both player feedback and our own data indicate Bretonnia is underperforming. I will say in high skill games, Bretonnia can do well. They struggled a bit in domination due to their capture weight situation, and hopefully there isn't anything here. I'll have to double check. I don't think there's anything here in terms of capture weight. Hopefully that's something that gets addressed in the next update after the new year. But infantry is too costly, cavalry is too weak. So they've lowered the costs of a lot of infantry. Foot squires also get an increase to their bonus versus infantry of 3, which should make them that much more effective. It's an increase to both weapon strength and melee attack against applicable units, which is pretty nice. Yeah, Grail Reliquary, significant cost decrease. I still don't think this is enough to make this thing better than the Corpse Cart, which is arguably the best comparison unit, in my opinion. Hey, thanks, Professor Pong. Good to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Yes, increased speed as well, so it should be a little bit easier to keep this thing in a position where it can benefit your cavalry, potentially. But, I mean, I still don't know if you'll really take it. Maybe in multiplayer, if you have the points, it might not be a bad idea to try and hold, like, a point on domination. I don't know. We'll see about this. Still not totally convinced. I think it needs more of a total overhaul. But the following changes are great. Just a minus 25 cost on Spearmen-at-Arms and Men-at-Arms with shields. Doesn't seem like much, but it does help those units seem much more cost-effective, especially in comparison to their unshielded counterparts. Most of the time for Bretonnia, unless you're facing like a really concentrated missile faction, it's just better to take the unshielded units. So maybe this will make that benefit, sort of cost-benefit analysis favor the shields a little bit more. And then Lance Formation, which has already seen a little bit of resurgence recently. I've definitely noticed some people using this in certain situations. It now has a mass plus 50% mass multiplier. We'll have to see how this ends up playing out, but it could make Lance Formation really strong. It also removed the deceleration and added -8 melee defense, which I'm not sure about that, but the mass multiplier plus 50% mass is pretty insane. Given how important mass is for certain calculations in Total War Warhammer 3, it might end up proving impactful, literally, but we'll see. Anyway, moving on to the Dark Elves. Not too much in terms of multiplayer, just something for multiplayer campaign. So we'll skip past them for now. Dark Elves are in a really good place. Really didn't think they needed much fixing at all. I will have to double check. I don't know. I believe there's still a bug with the Medusa Bloodrack Shrine. And I don't know if that was fixed. I'll have to double check with the devs on that one. Don't remember. I don't see anything about it specifically here. So anyway, let's move on to the dwarfs. Nothing there. Okay, Cathay. So Cathay I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion about, even though there's only one change. When we'll see if I can get someone to help me out with some testing. I'd love to test this out, see how much of a change it actually is. But -4 melee defense to formation attack. I think the biggest issue with Cathay is units. The reason why a lot of units are overperforming is because of harmony, not necessarily because of formation attack. I think this is a good change. It just, makes that Cathay infantry that much less tanky, kind of unnecessarily, because with harmony and with formation attack stacked together, they had an insane amount of melee defense and were very tough to kill for the cost. So this definitely will help to a degree, but I still think they have too much offensive power, especially with their melee attack on Harmony. Again, I need to do some testing, real games, standard testing, both, land battle and domination, sort of take it all in context and try and figure out my opinion. But I think my gut instinct says it probably needs a melee attack reduction on Harmony as well, but we'll see. Green skins don't get a lot of changes either, just a few fixes. Azag, I noticed, still doesn't have his items on Skullmuncha, so it didn't quite, yeah. Let's see. If I checked right in game, and we can look at this again, but I believe he still doesn't have his items on Skullmuncha. But there we go. It's half fixed. Grimgore Ironhide now has Bloodforged armor, which is just fantastic. A little bit of a cost reduction to Savage Orc Boarboys and Savage Orc Boarboys and Biggins. Nice to see. They are less cost efficient oftentimes than their regular Boarboy counterparts, so should help them shine a little bit more. And generally, Pigtonia is pretty decent, so we'll see. Greenskins could use some more love. I have some thoughts about, like, Black Orcs, I think, need a slight cost reduction, and maybe some other units, but we'll take a look at them more in the future. High Elves are in a really strong place right now in multiplayer. They didn't get any nerfs. Probably some people think that they should revert some of the changes they made. I'm not one of those people. I think High Elves are generally in a very good place right now. And we'll just let them shine for a few more patches. It's fine. Khorne, this is a typo. I believe this is Forsaken of Khorne because they actually don't get as much of a benefit from taking a mark as regular, or should I say other marked Forsaken. They get a cost reduction, which is nice. Not super impactful. Khorne and Nurgle both. I think another issue that still has yet to be addressed is the marks, right? So Khorne and Nurgle marks have clear downsides, whereas Tzeentch and Slaanesh marks do not. Now, I've advocated in the past for adding downsides to Tzeentch and Slaanesh, and I think that's an option still. But alternately, people have suggested, why don't you just remove the downsides from Mark of Khorne and Mark of Nurgle? I think that's also a valid option, to be honest. The more I think about it, it might actually be better, because Nurgle and Khorne both tend to be a little bit on the lower side for the Monogods factions. It would be a nice change, perhaps, to see them just get that sort of buff across all their mortal units. Remove that, I think it's, melee defense for Khorne and speed for Nurgle, just to kind of get that restored. Would be quite nice, and to make those marks less terrible in comparison. Anyway, Kislev also doesn't really get too much changes. Them and Cathay are both sort of awaiting DLC, but Kislev, I think, they're in a little bit of an odd place. I think some of their lower tier units could also use a cost reduction, sort of in line with now Empire and Bretonnia, but we'll see. Hey, thanks, Spellbound. Melee attack on Yang Harmony should be replaced by speed. Yeah, I think I agree, actually, Medley. I think I agree. Yeah, no buffs for Kislev, despite being so weak. Kislev definitely needs some love, but again, it's hard to say without DLC, like, what they're going to be getting. Changes to their cavalry could perhaps help. I'm not really sure, but I think maybe just like similar to like what High Elves and now Empire and Bretonnia have gotten, just like a minus 25 to 50 cost across like 4 to 5 core units would help them significantly, I think. Just help them be that much more cost effective. Anyway, moving on to Lizardmen, they also didn't get any changes, which Lizardmen are also a faction that some people would say needs some changes. I think Saurus could do with a cost reduction. So we're still not quite there in terms of infantry balance. There's still maybe a few more factions that need to be fine-tuned, but it's definitely better. Norska, Marauder Horsemen, this is a big one. I was hoping that we would see this change applied to Marauder Horsemen throwing axes as well, but at the very least, Marauder Horsemen and Horsemasters for Norska and for Warriors of Chaos both got a cost increase, plus 50, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're taking 6, that's an extra 300 costs less, which means you could potentially take 1 less of them, or you might have to option down to something else, or take less infantry, or figure out another way to skimp on some gold. That's just going to leave you that much thinner. I also wonder if this is just going to shift the meta to the throwing axes, though, because they didn't get their cost changed at all. And now it's only a 50 cost upgrade to get shields and armor piercing damage. Granted, slower missile speed, but still. Anyway, moving on. The Great Unclean One did get a nice buff, plus 50 armor, 2.5. So it literally got shrunk in terms of its base, if you will. So if you think about on tabletop, right, like the base plate of the unit dictates what units can, or how many models can be in contact with it, rather. And the base plate has basically been shrunk, so it means that ideally less models can be in contact, right? Smaller surface area to hit, meaning it should be less. It should helping. Should it become surrounded. So yeah, it'll be taking less hits, increase the splash attacks. Hopefully this will make the Great Unclean One a little bit better. It's just not very good right now. So, yeah, this doesn't help shore up its missile weakness necessarily. It will help it be tankier in melee. But yeah, Great Unclean One lost 1,000 pounds. Yeah, literally went on a diet. Speaking of diet, nothing for poor Greasus, who is by far the worst legendary lord in the game, and definitely needs some love of some kind. But there you go. Ogre Kingdoms, since the capture weight change, have actually been performing pretty well. They're solidly middle of the pack, and I think that's fine for where they are at the moment. Skaven, let's see. Less war crimes will hopefully be committed by Skaven in that their Poison Wind Globadiers have had their cost increased, finally. Yeah, crying because no Lizardmen buffs. I know, I was really hoping for some Lizardmen buffs too, to be honest. But yeah, Poison Wind Globes, plus 100 cost, well needed. Doomflayers got minus 100 cost, or sorry, minus 50 multiplayer cost. It helps. Doomflayers are still a little bit of an awkward unit to use in practice. Dwarf Thing Menace gets minus 100 straight up, which is nice. We'll have to see. I'm not convinced on Doomflayers. They'll still be worth it, but let's take a look. Perhaps Mutant Rat Ogres also got a little bit cheaper as well. They're still kind of a meme in comparison to, I mean, the Brood Horror is pretty much going to be better every single time. I don't know, Mutant Rat Ogres used to be fun in that you could take them alongside the Bone Breakers, but I think Bone Breakers count as rare single entities right now, which they definitely should not. But yeah, Skaven nerfed, love to see it. Nerfs, slight buffs on certain units, but I don't think the buffs will help as much as the nerfs will hurt, which is probably ultimately a good thing. I mean, you say they'll barely touch Hellstriders. This is literally the same nerf that was applied to anti-large Hellstriders in this patch, so I don't know. It seems like a double standard from you. But anyway, Flensing Rune was also nerfed. This is a spell that was significantly overtuned, so we'll be doing less damage now. Still's probably going to be worth it to take. I mean, it's like not that much of a nerf, right? It's like maybe a, what? Yeah, I don't even know. I don't want to try and math in non-public. Don't do math in public. A little bit of a nerf, but it probably still is worth taking. Slanesh here. So this is a change. Again, I actually think probably they didn't go, oh no, sorry, I stand corrected. It was the Hell Scourges that got plus 100 cost. The anti-large ones should have got the same thing. I don't know why they didn't apply this consistently to both. But in general, this is a unit that still, and we'll test this in game, I like my sort of yardstick for them is Centaurs, because Centaurs are already a very good light cavalry for the cost. And if they just beat Centaurs outright, which, I mean, arguably the anti-large ones should, given their role, but still, I mean, and they are also outperforming similar heavy cavalry of the same cost, it just starts to not make sense. I think probably these guys should be like 750 to 800. And if you look at sort of the tiering system of where they fit into the roster, if Marauder Horsemen, which upgrade into Hellstriders on sort of the campaign warband mechanic, right? Then the Hellstriders should be like a noticeable tier up in terms of cost, in my opinion. But yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I think they should have gone a little bit further with this, and probably they will get pressured to do so again, a cost increase again in the next patch. But let's keep up the polite pressure in that way, and hopefully we can see these guys realized into the sort of mid-tier cavalry that they actually are, higher mid-tier, like on par with something like Empire Knights, or I think at least in my mind that's sort of the tier that they fit in. That's where their power level is too right now. Their cost is outside of that, but anyway, let's move on to a change that I'm a big fan of. I've already seen some people complaining about man spam, but to be honest, man spam is great. Empire should have very cost-effective and reliable infantry. Not the best at anything, but just good and cost-effective, which, they're more cost-effective now because they've mostly had their cost decreased. Some fixes to animations for handgunners, which is great. And then great swords, minus 25 cost. I don't know. I can't remember the last time great swords got a direct buff like this, but that's great. That much, a little bit more cost effective. And when you see that this minus 25 cost has been applied to great swords, spearmen, swordsmen, spearmen with shields, right? So all of your sort of core infantry here, no buff for halberdiers, no buff for flagellants, but still on the top and the bottom end, your infantry just got that much cheaper. So if you're taking, 6, 7, 8 infantry, that just gets you a couple of hundred extra points to kind of play around with. Maybe take an extra missile unit, maybe an extra pistolier, right? Or upgrade something into a more elite, take an extra character. Like literally, the cost of a warrior priest on foot with buffs to like increase the power level of your infantry line would be about 500-ish points, 600-ish points. So if you're, again, line of 6 to 8 infantry, you're going to get about most of the way there just from the gold you've saved with these buffs, right? So for me, it's a really good change. I'm a huge fan. Steam Tank, actually minus 50 cost in game. Okay, so I guess we better actually look in the game then. War Demon making a great point. Great swords got minus 50. Okay, so that's even better. That means you can definitely and should be filling out your character slots, given how cheap Empire characters are, to take, nothing on foot. Start to add in 1 or 2 abilities, and they just increase the power level of all the units around them significantly. So that's great. Steam Tank is still way too expensive. This is like a 1900 cost unit, and it's still 2300 for whatever reason. Or sorry, 2100 for the base. Perfect Vigor's added, which is fantastic, but most of the time when you're taking a Steam Tank in multiplayer, you're also taking Regrowth, which does also restore Vigor, so it's not amazing. I mean, this will ensure that your Vigor stays maximum the whole time, which is definitely better even than having Regrowth restore your Vigor in a late game situation, but it's not the best buff it could have gotten. I still think with this, it does need a cost decrease, but wow, patch notes wrong? I know, right? Never happens. Yeah. See, the thing about great swords is it's tricky because Empires actually, they have some of the best access to buffs because of the prayer buffs, because warrior priests are so cheap, and they also have really good magic selection. So it's very easy to increase the stats of great swords. I don't know. I think mostly their stats are, they are situational before, but with minus 50 cost, they're just going to be that much more reliable. We can test them. If I can get someone in here to test with me, we can perhaps run them into some like warriors with great weapons for chaos or something. But anyway, yeah, great buffs for Empire. Love to see that. Hopefully it helps them. Tomb King. So this is where we start to get to the undead nerfs. Now, you'll notice minus, again, 5 to 10 leadership. In some cases, yeah, 5 to 10 leadership on most units. Skeleton Archers, Bone Giant, especially like the more elite upper tier of units. And this is a problem even in Warhammer 2 that was never really properly addressed, in my opinion, which is that it's functionally impossible to disintegrate high leadership undead units. Anything over 70 leadership actually has enough leadership to resist army losses in some situations, which is insane. Like, they'll take crumbling damage, but since crumbling really doesn't do a ton, and especially at that time did even less, like, I have literally seen Tomb Guards and other high leadership undead units win a game while crumbling when they were the last units alive, which, for a mortal faction, that unit would have routed and the other person would have won. Like, I've literally seen them win through army losses. So it's good to see a lot of units brought under that 70 threshold. and units even dipping down into the 50s. It might seem low for an elite type unit or a mid-tier unit even, but given how disintegration works, you literally have to get to negative double the base leadership, right? So, for example, for the Blessed Legion, previously, you would have had to get their leadership to negative 110, which is pretty significant. I mean, army losses is minus 150, at least it was in Warhammer 2. So, without any other leadership applied, even the Blessed Legion would have been able to resist before, but now they're at what, like 135. Yeah, well, yeah, anyway. It'd be what, 90 with then the 45 base leadership. So yeah, I mean, now a lot of these units will actually die to army losses under normal circumstances, and just in general, I think the thresholds they've crossed in a lot of cases here are pretty important for certain units. But yeah. Well, raw cauliflower, the thing you have to remind them is that they also fight against undead in single player, and so yes, your units have been nerfed when you're playing as undead, but when you're fighting against undead, you should have an easier time, so it balances out. Yeah, I agree with Bubba's big blast there. Given some of their other campaign mechanics being kind of severely overtuned right now, like vampires getting more than half their army back every single battle, even if they lose their entire army, I think they'll be fine. But I'm just a filthy multiplayer enjoyer. What do I know? Let's just kind of peruse through. And I'm not going to go over the specifics, but it's basically the entire roster. Not quite, but a significant portion of the roster gets leadership decreases, which is just fantastic. Also, huge for the Tomb Kings. Realm of Souls has been cut in half. Realm of Souls is a very strong heal now, given that it's percentage based and it hits your entire army. So they just literally cut the value in half. Hopefully it's way more balanced now. These two changes together honestly might be a little bit too much. We'll have to see. The Tomb Kings might drop significantly in the tier rankings, but I'm definitely holding off judgment until I see some games, play them myself, to really make judgment there. But anyway, moving on to Tzeentch, their Marauder Horsemen also got a plus 50 cost increase. That's pretty much it for multiplayer. Vampire Coast and Vampire Counts, once again, you will notice just wide leadership decreases across the board on a lot of units. Very good to see them dipping in the 50s and 40s range, down to 35 for zombie deckhands. So just really nice, to be honest. Really, really nice. Black Pirapt also gets a nerf, so hopefully, looking at the math on this, I don't think this will give you infinite Winds of Magic. Maybe, perhaps. But we'll have to take a look and see. And then Isabella gets some fixes, and once again, huge nerfs to undead across the board. All the leadership of all the stuff. Look at this. Blood Knights even going down below 70 leadership is fantastic. So yeah, and Spellbound brings up a good point. They didn't really address capture weight too much in this patch. We'll look at that in the future, especially sort of as the Warhammer World Championship goes on and other domination games and tournaments kind of play out. I think capture weight is sort of a big point that still needs to be addressed. That's multiplayer specific too, so it won't really upset campaign players, but the way that the expendable rule is implemented, I think just needs to be overhauled entirely. And I think it would be better to just do more of a granular sort of infantry cost-based system, but we'll talk more about that another time. I don't want to get too bogged down into that. Oh, the patch is live right now. Patch is already live. I think it went live several hours ago. So yes, it is live now. That's correct. Forbidden Rod also gets nerfed. It seems like a lot of these items that were previously providing maybe not infinite Winds of Magic, but an insane amount of Winds of Magic extra are being nerfed, which is good. Warriors of Chaos, we see again the change to Hellstriders and Marauder Horsemen together. Hopefully this balances. I know that's kind of the main issue with Warriors of Chaos previously, so I'm really hoping they'll be at a better place now, and we see some more variety in terms of their builds. I mean, they didn't really touch Be'lakor at all, so unfortunately, he's still going to be the only thing you ever see from Warriors of Chaos. But yeah, I might just honestly ban Be'lakor from events going forward, because I really think that he should not be included on the multiplayer roster of Warriors of Chaos, and he should only be on Demons of Chaos, but that's a discussion perhaps for another day. Wood Elves, I don't think... oh yeah, War Dancers. Almost forgot about this. The sad Wood Elves sitting in the trees, hiding in the forest. Got a nice little buff to War Dancers. +4 bonus versus infantry. Again, is like +4 melee attack and weapon strength against the applicable target, especially when they're in their defensive stance. This is great because it gives them that much extra chunk of offensive power. And then just -50 cost to make them that much more cost effective. So not the craziest buff in the world, but a decently impactful one. Definitely. 750, I think, is the cheapest War Dancers have ever been. So hopefully it helps them. The Wood Elves have got some very slight melee buffs over the past couple of patches, and it seems to be helping, but we'll see. Normal Demon Princes are also pretty strong for Warriors of Chaos. And see, I would be fine with that, but I just think Be'lakor needs to be removed. Like, he should be only on Demons. Anyway, so that's mostly it. They talk about battle difficulties here. Let's see if there was any abilities changes hidden somewhere that I didn't catch. I don't think so. I don't think they actually did any abilities changes whatsoever. Besides those that were listed here, like items and stuff. So, interesting. Okay, let's now move down, looking forward. So this is the last patch for the year. Unfortunate, but we are now just about into December anyway, so kind of makes sense. Hopefully we hear more about 2.4, 3.0, 3.0, and other assorted chaotic happenings in a post next month. It's just a PSA as well. If you're playing multiplayer campaign, do not double-click do diplomacy. Well, anyway, yeah. I agree. So, again, just to kind of summarize things that need to be still addressed, Beastmen, infantry, like there's still a few factions, Beastmen, Kislev, and let's see. Let me actually run through them. So, okay, so things that still need to be addressed, in my opinion. Bretonnia, Grail Reliquary just needs an overhaul. Overall, though, I think they're in a much better place now. Dark Elves are fine. Dwarfs are fine, mostly. I mean, by design, they're never going to be great in domination, and that's fine. Grand Cathay needs looking. We need to test more about their infantry to see if Harmony needs more nerfs, which I think probably it does, but we'll see. Greenskins, their infantry also could use a little bit of love, and again, we just kind of need to see where they're at. High Elves are fine. Born and Nurgle, both marks. Kislev, infantry, like with the Beastmen. Lizardmen also. So those three, I would say, are probably the top three for needing infantry rebalancing, sort of in line with what the other factions have gotten. Ogre Kingdoms, please buff Greasus, please. Actually, Skaven also could use a little bit of fine-tuning on some of their upper-tier infantry. I do feel that Storm Vermin are not cost-effective and could use a little bit of love as well. More nerfs for the top tier of Hellstriders, the anti-large Hellstriders. And then, yeah, again, Marks. Figure out the Marks situation. Empire, I need to see how these buffs play out, but I think mostly fine now. Tomb Kings, can see, and the other undead, see how the nerfs play out. Yeah, that's basically it. That's a good summary of everything we talked about today. Yeah, I mean, if you're spending... The thing about the leadership nerfs is, and this is kind of my point earlier, Major Moolah, is the crumbling is a little bit of a factor. Like, it's going to be, you know, an extra, like you said, extra 1,000 damage or so over the course of a battle. if you're lucky. The biggest thing is it makes it much easier to pop units into disintegration, because again, you need to get to you need to get to minus 2 times the base leadership. So if we go back and look at it again, just for those of you guys just joining, so like for skeleton spears, for example, right? Instead of getting them to minus 80, you now only need to get them to minus 70, which doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but considering a lot of leadership sort of effects are in the area of 6 to 8, minus 6 to 8 leadership for like shot by small arms fire, shot by artillery, whatever. It's just going to make it that much easier to get, especially like the lower to mid-tier units, to disintegration, which I think is ultimately like one of the best goals to have, but we'll see. Yeah, the time gap for DLCs is still too long. They really need to get their ducks in a row on that end, but let's go ahead and take a look now in-game. Done enough rambling about the general state of things here, and let's just briefly take a look at what we've got going on here. So, not that. This is all replays that are now out of date. So just checking through the patches and the notes to make sure, don't see anything obvious with Beastmen here. Bretonia. Yeah, nice change. That was correct on the Spearmen at Arms here. Grill Relic also 300. Still not amazing. I mean, to be honest, this ability right here is something you would pay like 150 to 200 points for on a character, and the unit itself is like double that cost. So, not great, but still, it's better. Demons are also here. Dark Elves, no changes there. Let me ask real quick if I can get an answer. I might have to put it in a comment if they don't get back to me in time. But I just was asking about the blood rack being bugged. Dwarfs, again, no changes. Listed, at least. So, Empire, interesting. The Tattersouls are now the most expensive Empire infantry, which is kind of hilarious, to be honest. But 850 for Great Swords seems quite nice. A nice even 300 for Empire Spearmen. So if we come in here and have a quick comparison, and just sort of think about Cathay units, which tend to be like very, very cost-effective, way too cost-effective, one might argue. You have to keep in mind here that they previously would have had +9 melee defense from formation attack, just base, right? Even without Harmony. And then, of course, Harmony gives them +6 melee defense and +4. So that was an extra 14 melee defense up to 38, and then 26 melee attack, right? Which, I mean, these guys are 34 and 20, so yeah, definitely the melee attack component is still too much, I think. Although, granted, the Cathay and Spearmen are higher cost, right? +50 cost. They also have more HP for whatever reason. I guess because they have more unit models? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Peasant Long Spears. Leadership also is slightly higher because of Harmony, so with Harmony, and especially considering that, again, with the Harmony amplifier from a character, that's what really makes this start to go crazy, because their stats are so much higher with that character in range. I really think that the melee attack component could be just removed entirely or cut in half, to be honest, because if it's +8 melee attack, they're up to 28 melee attack with, 36 melee defense, and now still be like 41 melee defense with formation attack active. I mean, that's just much better stats than the Empire Spearmen, much more so than 50 cost. So I think this is still an area that perhaps needs to be addressed, but we'll see. I don't know, so no one has so far has responded. See if they to see if anyone wants to help me with testing. By the way, if there's anyone here in chat who wants to jump in and help me with a bit of testing as well, we can do a little bit with the AI, but I am just kind of limited into what the AI will cooperate with. But let's just go ahead and throw a quick test here of some infantry. And I throw Caster Lord with no abilities or spells, then he should hang back. It's going to be a little bit janky to try and do, but let's do this. Hey, Medley's got a lobby open. Cool, cool, cool. Let's jump in there. You want to just PM me real quick the details of your lobby on Discord, Medley? Let's see. Oh, there we go. Cool, cool, cool. Thank you for the invite code. Appreciate that. Excellent. So we will join. Nope. There we go. There we go. Excellent. So, yes, let's do some great swords versus warriors first. For great swords and set to glacial. And we'll test them against the warriors with great weapons, who are generally seen as one of the best, if not the best, sort of great weapon infantries in the game. They're certainly the Swiss Army knife, or the yardstick, I would say, that I like to test things against. So, new faction intros. We can take a look at those also in just a moment. Definitely. Yeah, that should be good, though. This, I mean, the test here, you could have tested this in the last patch, and I guess I should know this interaction. Based on what I remember, it's more or less an grade, I think, which was bad before for the great swords because it was cost ineffective. But now that they're exactly the same cost, I'm hoping that we see that that trade continue to play out as I remember. Because from what I remember, this is like basically 50-50, if not slightly in the Warriors of Chaos favor. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, there weren't a ton of like actual stat changes to test today, but maybe we can grab a Great Unclean One also and throw him into like a blob of cheap anti-large infantry and see how that goes.
Consumed by chaos.
Ah, Chaos Dragon, so cool. Hopefully we get Galrush, or Galrush, or however you pronounce his name, Galrush, as a legendary lord someday for warriors. Would be very, very cool. Okay, go ahead and ready up here. Right, and just nice 4v4 charge. Oh yeah, looking fantastic. Love that Sterling color scheme. More yellow for the Empire. It's all yellow. It's always all yellow. Yes. Yeah, peasant long spears. I guess, yeah, they do have expert charge defense as well. Okay, so basically even. Again, this is more or less what I remember, if not slightly in favor of the greatswords. Given that the greatswords are anti-infantry specialists, it wouldn't be too crazy if they had just a slight edge here, but I think it is basically dead even, which is interesting. What that means is, especially with Empire's prayer buffs, this fight will swing in their favor. And with good micro and good execution, the Empire should be able to win. Whereas in just kind of a standard face engagement with maybe standard style of like skirmishing and maybe some attack chariots or other support units for chaos, they could also swing this in their favor relatively easily. But it looks like the greatswords, yeah, probably going to be about 50-50 trade here. Hey, thanks. Appreciate you guys. It's been a good one so far. It's honestly been an interesting year. A lot of ups and downs for the channel, but a lot of very high highs. The lows have been quite low, but a lot of very high heights in terms of breaking records of viewership, and like, you know, Mortal Empire has definitely catapulted me onto a new level in terms of subscribers. Far surpassed, honestly, what I expected. But look at this. Greatswords are able to prevail. I mean, again, if you tested this like 100 times, you might see a slightly different result, but it's pretty close. Greatswords are more or less combat ineffective at this point, but this looks really good, actually, for the Greatswords. As sort of a mid-tier anti-infantry unit, they should be much better now, and just a lot more reliably cost-effective. Like, it should be less of a risk to take them. So that's actually pretty good. Again, I will admit fully I am Empire biased, but yeah, after the charge bonus wears off, Greatsword should pull ahead, and it does end up being like a 5-10% victory. Oh yeah. So very interesting. Very, very interesting. I like to see that. And like I said, given that the Greatswords are anti-infantry specialists, I'm kind of actually okay with this, because the great weapons will perform much better against cavalry and monsters and any other targets. So this is actually good. I think this is more or less in line with what I would want. And I fully admit I am biased towards the Empire. But let's go next to... I guess I can just keep it right here if I turn unit caps off. Or Medley would have to. In fact, let's just go over to Nurgle, make it easy. So let's grab a couple of great unclean ones here. Let's grab the Uncle and the regular. And let's see. The armor, plus 10 armor on these guys helps a little bit against like cheap missiles. It doesn't help very much. But I mean, obviously these units are much more expensive. I would expect them to absolutely cream cheap spears, but previously they would just end up taking like very cost inefficient damage from those cheap spears. So let's check out how much this change affects things. Did they not nerf dwellers? Ah, that's another good one too. I must have not seen that. Let me double check on the patch notes actually, because it seems like they definitely should have nerfed dwellers. But let me literally control F on the thing. And let's... Okay. Nope, they did not. There's no mention of it at all in the patch notes, so that's great. Cool. Anyway. Let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead and just YOLO charge in. And so it should be smaller technically, but plus 10 armor, and then yeah, it's like double. Oh man, that's just fantastic. So far so good. Not taking too much damage, but definitely taking some damage. So, I don't know, I should have maybe actually looked at this with the previous patch and, like, taken a screenshot like this and then counted, like, okay, how many guys are in base contact here technically? And ideally, it should be, like, 5 guys less now. Still looks like quite a bit, but that bigger splash attack, too, should be dealing more damage, especially to this wide area. But let's go ahead and pop some fast forward here. And yes, we'll watch also the beautiful attack animations. And when I say beautiful, what I mean is actually horrifically awful. Great Unclean One, most jolly, big old Oompa Loompa. It's what's that dude from Oogie Boogie? Is that the dude from like Big Sack Man from Nightmare Before Christmas? Anyway. Oh no, not that attack animation. I'm gonna be demonetized now. But, okay, so this one is still losing to 2 spears, which is most sad. I guess I do have the bound spells, technically, which I can use, so let's use them. Not the best placement, but... And then this guy, this... which is going to heal himself just slightly. It is crazy to me, though, that if I hadn't have used that, and this guy still might even lose with having used his abilities, which is just sad. I mean, he's fighting 600 points worth of spears. This one, on the other hand, with the abilities, is able to terror out these two. So, yeah, interesting. I do feel it helps a little bit. I still don't know, because, like, consider also that these guys are going to be getting shot by missiles. I don't know, maybe in certain matchups it makes them a little bit more usable as a unit. And the Uncle in particular seems like he might be a little bit more reliable, but let's see. The splash increase without extra damage just reduces entity death. Not always spellbound. The thing you have to consider is that because Nurgle has some passive drain effects, and also with the AoE damage spells, a lot of the models that get hit by that stuff aren't gonna they'll get damaged, but they won't necessarily die. So I do think that you might end up seeing slightly more model deaths with those effects added in. Like in a vacuum, I think technically you're correct, but look at this. It's still pretty sad that the one Great Unclean One can't quite finish the job, even with using both of his abilities to support himself against... I mean, granted, it is just, you know, anti-large unit versus squishy large unit, but still. Our Great Unclean One's supposed to be duelists. They're supposed to be more brawlers, I think. I'm not really sure the intention, to be honest with you, but... why not? Just throw a spear leash there, just for fun. Hey, Zach, good to see you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your continued support as well, my friend. Yeah, it's interesting how much that ROR status, like the melee defense buff and then this Defiling Deluge, how much of a difference that makes. Yeah, they are decent duelists. It's true, War Demon. They're... and what I guess what I mean by brawler is that they're supposed to be kind of an all-arounder. Like, they're supposed to be able to fight most things, from what I understand. Like, they should be able to fight monsters okay. They should be able to fight blobs of infantry decently. They should be able to fight cavalry okay. Like, they're or sort of like a Swiss Army knife type, right? Or a more generalist where... yeah, at least that's kind of the way I envision them, but... oh, definitely, Zach. I'll be honest, I haven't been playing that much myself, so I haven't really been pressing on hosting lessons over the past month, but in December, I'm going to definitely get back to it, because with this new patch, I'm excited about the state of the game. I'm going to be out of town, like, from tomorrow until Saturday, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to get content out for you guys all of those days. I I might end up taking a break for like 3 or 4 days if I'm not able to get content done ahead of time, but yeah, interesting that this guy still loses to 600 cost of Empire Spears. Look at Medley's damage value compared to mine. Oh, yeah. Felled by some underpaid dudes with pointy sticks. Yep. It is quite sad. He doesn't even crush him when he falls either, which is just so sad. But yeah, that's so it seems like it probably didn't help that much, the change that they did. It, like, the plus 10 armor is okay, the reduction to entity size is okay, but I still think the Great Unclean One's not that great. Yeah. And even testing them against a unit which, I mean, arguably, you would see why on paper the spears would trade cost effectively there, and it's not like you should just be YOLOing your Great Unclean One into spears, but it's just like one of the lowest tier, cheapest spears in the game, so yeah. So let's just do some final couple things here. I'm just thinking what some of the other major changes. We've talked about Empire, we've talked about Nurgle just now. I don't really care too much to do testing with the undead right now. Let's actually do a little bit of testing with Cathay. So, we did do great swords against warriors with great weapons. I do that, Zach, to help save on frame rates, especially when I'm streaming or recording. The resources are important, and I don't get that much out of the 3D portholes. So yeah, since Warhammer 1, I've turned off portholes, or turned them to 2D rather, to help save resources. Yes. So let's see. I'm thinking Jade Warriors. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take 4 Jade Warriors, 4 Jade Warrior Halberds, and then I'm gonna do a plus. Why don't we max harmony? Let's make this best possible test. Or you know what? Actually, it's much more realistic that you're gonna have a Shooting Gun Lord because they're so ridiculously cost effective. So let's bring one. And then I also need a couple of Peasant Archers just for the harmony. I'm actually going to have them off of fire at will. But this is one actual stat change that we can test. And I might finish up. Hey, Ryan with a 5er. Do you think Coast could use a revert to the changes that nerfed the HP of pistols? Gunnery mobs, I miss Gunline Coast. I agree. I think Coast right now, sort of their melee rush faction identity is fun and all. It's nice as a change of pace, but I do feel Gunline Coast is sort of their core identity, so not sure what to say on that front. I needed to play around with it a little bit more and see, but possibly they could restore their HP without bringing back the lost models, and that would help. Apologies, guys. Tried to shield that. Hey, what's up? Dan the man. Yes. So we'll start with shields. Okay. Okay, and got these guys for harmony. Take them off of fire at will. You can stand in the center. Okay.
Warriors,
fight in harmony. Minds united.
And then we'll get the halberds ready just behind.
minds as one.
Okay. Let's move up all together.
Without fail.
Wind and fire, we obey. The dragons ask.
Harmonious thrust.
Make sure we're amplifying the harmony of these units. And let's have you guys just kind of pull up close
Stone and steel.
without actually getting into contact here.
Sends us with joy.
Want to make sure we're staying in harmony range.
Descendant of dragons.
Okay.
Offspring of dragons.
Okay, so if we look at the stats now, 30-45 versus 36-44. And yeah, I think the Chaos Warriors have slightly more HP, so let's see how much of a difference this makes. I think previously it was more or less an even trade if the Jade Warriors were not slightly ahead, which is insane considering they're 250 points less. But let's just let's tune in and check. You can see here these guys are 28 and 42, 30 and 45. So with the character amplification, yeah, it's interesting. I still find it hysterical when tested hammers versus Sister Slaughter and the hammer is lost. I know, right? Sometimes there's those interactions you don't really think about that you're like, wow, this is surprising. And you have to really kind of delve into the details as to why that particular interaction took place that way. But this is better. This is definitely better. The Jade Warriors are not winning, but... yeah, Great Unclean One is sort of in a weird place because the Nurgle could bring the ROR Giant instead, which is better. I still think Uncle for Uncle maybe has a place in some matchups as like a very tough single entity, but at the same time, they don't have... I mean, he has some limited self-healing and AoE damage, but it's tricky to use in practice, definitely. Definitely. But yes, here we go. Fast forward this, and getting close. Watch these Jade Warriors duke it out. So they are... yeah, they're losing slowly. But it's actually pretty close. Like, these guys in the center might end up winning with Miao Ying or with Uncle Zhao. Crazy Uncle Zhao. I would imagine that this would actually swing far enough that the Jade Warriors would win decisively. Maybe not decisively, but more convincingly. Even as it is right now, they're still trading decently close to even. Certainly much closer to even than I'm comfortable with, given the difference in cost. So this is a pretty clear indication, I think, of why Cathay needs either nerfs to Harmony or cost decreases. Look at this. They might actually straight up win one. This is a unit that costs 250 points less, guys. And Chaos Warriors are seen as some of the better mid-tier infantry in the game right now. Like, they're actually fairly solid. Yeah, look at this. Jade Warriors just winning. Interesting. So they lose without the Harmony Amplifier, but not by much. Certainly by not by 250 points worth. I mean, these Chaos Warriors should have like a quarter HP left, if not more. And they're definitely below that. Very well below that in one case. This one basically is a wash, right? These units more or less kill each other. Same thing here. But still, I think... okay, so I have formed my opinion already. But let's test the halberds just in case. We'll bring these guys up next. The Heart of Winter Bear is what they should have gotten. Yeah, probably, honestly. Okay, these guys are a little too far out there on the side. Yay. I think I might actually stand and brace. They literally have 8 charge bonus, and they have charge reflections, so... Yeah, I'm actually just going to brace this one. And then let's see. I would expect the halberds to be even more one-sided because the melee attack in particular, like, you can see these Jade Warrior halberds just have straight-up better stats. The cost difference is not so egregious. It's, what, only 150 cost difference between these two instead of 250. So I think Jade Swords probably just need a straight plus 50 gold at cost increase. Even, you know, given a nerf to Harmony, which I do think the melee attack component for Harmony does need to be nerfed as well. But this is kind of insane. Maintaining Harmony it can be difficult, but it's actually easier. Well, I don't know. There's an argument to be made that it's easier in one or the other. I could see valid points on either side, but to a degree, yes, especially if your formation gets broken. But if you're able to maintain any kind of presence of missiles and infantry together, it's not crazy difficult to maintain Harmony on a static objective. Yeah, we can do some lance formation testing. That's actually one more thing that we definitely should do. Yes. Definitely can do some lance formation testing. But look at this, guys. I mean, that is... This one on the side is interesting. Maybe those guys weren't quite in Harmony the full amount of time, and they end up losing, but all of the other ones end up winning, and the ones with the Harmony amplifier in the center proved to be decisive, so... Yeah, that's, I think that's a definitive test to say that the Cathay nerfs were not enough. I'm actually going to save that one. And I'm sending that one to CA, so... Maybe. I mean, how much of a charge did it actually reflect, though? Because isn't it based on the unit's charge bonus? It's, what, half the unit's charge bonus. These halberds only have, like, 12 charge anyway. But still, maybe that did skew the results a little bit. I will concede. But, I mean, the Jade Warriors are probably going to win that regardless, especially with the Harmony amplifier there in the center. It's definitely more noticeable on them. Granted, again, the cost difference isn't so much between these two units, but... Doubles your weapon strength. Interesting. Very interesting. I have heard different things from different people, so need a sweaty battle to make fully sure. It's probably true. That is probably true. Let's do one more test, and then maybe do a couple battles. So I'll switch to Bretonia, and let's go with... Let's do this. Let's grab one of each kind of knight. Ground-based knight, at least. And... we'll just have them charge a nice armored infantry. Hey, thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it. Good to see you. With spells and maneuvering, it'll be difficult to maintain Harmony. Less so than you think. Certainly in land battles, if you're able to, dictate sort of the pace of the engagement with a static artillery position, oftentimes it's not super hard to do with Cathay. Hey, what's up, Ramen Dog? Big thanks. Much appreciated. Let's see. All these guys in a line here.
We are ready.
That was a terrible line.
Questing
It's okay.
Knights of Bretonia.
Oop, a little bit of lag. All right. Get some lance formation charges.
To victory!
Your word?
So if we take a look now at the mass here, it says plus 50% mass, but I'm not seeing it increase on the unit card here, so I don't know if it's actually being applied correctly. We'll see. We're just going to charge straight into the face here and check the results. Maybe pull out, do a cycle charge. Or, yeah. I mean, the charge, they did charge. They did some damage. I don't know if the lance formation is actually correctly applying, though. It's not reflected in the unit card, so a little bit odd. Let's pull back. Bit of lag here, too, as well. Just check my stream. Hopefully everything's all good on my end. Yeah, the undead nerfs are the real birthday present. It's true. Undead nerfs and Empire buffs is all great. Yeah, let me, like, pull back a little bit. Let's unenable this. And then let's re-enable it and just see. Okay, so now it is applied. Okay, so it actually wasn't correctly applied before. I think we just discovered a bug. You don't actually want to activate it until after the battle starts, otherwise it might not be applying the stats correctly. But let's try again. Yeah, I think it was just bugged for the card. It wasn't displaying the stats correctly. But let's see if it makes much of a difference. That was, maybe like 10 to 20% HP on the initial charge, depending on the quality of the unit, but that next one was like a 30% off on 30% discount. Even the Knights Errant managed to get a really nice charge there, and look at the over-penetration, how models are like sent flying. Several Bretonnian models end up like on the other side. So the melee defense debuff is now resulting in the Knights Errant getting completely slaughtered. But let's see how well we're able to pull back now with the acceleration buff. And with the extra mass, these models that are trapped should be able to get out a little bit better. Looks like a couple of them still get dragged down there for the Knights Errant, who probably have the lowest mass out of these, 1650. I guess they're all the same. Interesting. But, yeah, that makes a pretty big difference. I think Lance Formation is very good now, guys, against, at least for charging static infantry formations. That deep penetration. You know Romulan Dog is down for deep penetration. But, okay, so this is awesome. I mean, there have been times in Total War Warhammer where I would not have advised even face charging, you know, non-anti-large armored infantry with knights like this, but that seems to make enough of a difference that it... I mean, we didn't test it without Lance Formation, obviously, but with Lance Formation, it is very impressive, I must say. Yeah, that pierce is what you're looking for sure, especially if you're trying to punch through into the second line. Allows you to pull completely through on a charge. Pulling through with Lance Formation. We can do a few more tests after this. I mostly wanted to see the damage at this point, but you see this unit was pretty much fully on the other side, and look at how they're able to just pull away like that. Even though this unit of questing knights was fully on the other side of these warriors, they just pulled through them no problem. I mean, granted, there's not too many warriors left, but you know what, Raponce, you can go fight those guys. So let's check. These are Knights of the Realm. They're not the heaviest knights in the world, but let's see on the penetration. These other two charges, I would imagine, will just wipe these two units. But let's keep the health bars up so we can study the effect. Yeah, those units are probably just going to get full wiped on the charge. It did penetrate pretty well through, but not completely. Yeah, a few unit models still get caught up and kind of dragged down right there, which is definitely interesting. So, yeah, but then see if I try and pull out this way. Will the models be able to get through?
Grey Knights! As you say!
The trick is if the units with charge defense can counter the extra mass. Yes, definitely. Let's check out a quick sandwich charge here. I mean, just the questing knights alone with extra charge bonus and mass, that is quite nice. I think it's lance formation time, guys. This looks really quite promising.
Knights of the realm!
Definitely need to play some games and see. If giving a move order immediately after charge, he could have pulled right through. Yeah. Let's go ahead and repeat this. And let's see. So let's try this. I'm going to switch up the composition a little bit. We're going to go all Knights of the Realm so that it's consistent. And then I'm going to do 2 on Lance Formation and 2 not on Lance Formation, and let's see the difference. Lance Formation into Spear's Halberds is going to hurt so much now, though. I will say the melee defense debuff does mean that you're going to have to be careful about deploying your cavalry. You already kind of did, to be honest, but hey, thanks, Bob. Good to see you. Yeah, I've got time for a little bit more. We're going to do this. Someone wanted us to do Jade's Warriors versus Great Swords also. So we can do that. You're going to see some more Lance Formation testing. We're just about to get to another round here.
Knights of the realm! Awaiting orders!
Here's the thing. I don't want Med 2 Cav either, at least universally, but I think if Bretonia had Cav that could do that, that would probably be fine, you know? So, okay, let's do this. Make sure we switch to Lance Formation once the battle's already started, so actually get the benefit from it. Okay, and now charge. And let's study the difference. See if there's notable difference in terms of the impact, and I'll also try and pull through on one of these units here. It seemed to be pretty good for cycle charging in the last test. I mean, granted, I wasn't full J cycle charging, but okay, I was a little bit late on that pull through. I was looking at the damage values, but look, I mean, even yeah, I was able to pull through those Chaos Warriors just fine. 1650 is significant in terms of mass. Like, I think that might even be more mass than Chaos Warriors, but look at that. So the damage, there is slightly more damage, maybe 5 to 10% more damage on the Lance Formation there. But let's see. This unit is now pulled fully through. And I can turn around and go for a rear charge. They definitely did take more damage, though. So they're dealing more damage, but they're also taking more damage in return. So if, I don't know, if you're really aggressive with your cycle charging and very on point with your micro, you're going to be not at as much risk because you won't spend as much time in combat. Like if you're really on top of, you know, cycle charging in and out very quickly. But even still, like, they're not in combat for too long and they're starting to take damage there. This unit, though, that pulled through, turned around and came for a rear charge, and like, look, I can now pull through this direction just fine. So yeah, I almost think this unit is doing better hitting, pulling through, and hitting. And granted, it is just more of an efficient cycle charge that I'm doing with this unit, not allowing them to stay in melee combat for quite as long. But yeah, I don't know. It seems to be these two units are performing close to the same, if not more or less exactly the same. So Not really sure. I still think it's maybe not 100% worth it all the time, but definitely for pulling through, it does seem to be, like, see, if I now try and pull this unit through. Yeah, see, they're like seriously struggling to even get past the line there. So definitely, I will say, pulling through, I notice a significant difference. And the fact that I can kind of just like hit one side, pull through, hit the other side, pull through, and kind of cycle charge back and forth rather than in and out, it's interesting. Yeah, without the lance formation, they cannot go through, which is definitely a thing. And then, like, this unit, though, also shows you leave them in lance formation and leave them in combat, they are going to die faster, because this unit is gone already, whereas these two, I've more or less been microing the same, and they are still fighting. So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I think it's worth it for the formation disruption, says the Pale King, and I think I agree in most cases. I think that's correct. With lower numbers, yeah, it performs better, less, you get more percentage of models in contact. I think that's correct. Oh, man. It does look glorious, though, you have to admit. Bum rushing Empire gun lines just got a lot easier. Pull straight through the Spearman. Yeah, and then look at this. If I, like, really efficiently cycle charge, I'm not taking much damage at all on my unit. Okay, I can already turn around and come around for another charge. And once they hit charge animation, they're not even necessarily going to fan out into the formation itself. Like, they'll just go straight in for attacks. So, yeah, I think if you're really on top of your micro, this is going to be a really nasty way to play against infantry. Because the extra mass just makes cycle charging that much better. So it's probably one of the best changes they could have made, actually. Low-key, this might be my favorite change of the whole patch. Yeah, especially with Shock Cav, you don't want them in combat anyways. Exactly. 95 charge bonus on these guys, too. It's nuts. The thing is, there's also situations where, like against a monster, for example, where the same number, as long as the monster like gets saturated in the center of the unit, it's likely to be that the same number of models will be in contact anyway, whether you're in lance formation or not. So I could see against certain single entities, if you manage to get the lance formation into full surround, and maybe we can test that also in just a minute, but this is looking really good. See, like, even though the others ended up losing, just with this one, right? If I just have good micro, I can probably just finish it. Knights of the Realm already beat Hellstriders before. Now, in Lance Formation, I don't know. Cavalry on Cavalry is the one time I don't know if I would use the Lance Formation necessarily. But, let's see. With this low model count now, can we hit and pull through? Yeah, man, look at that pull-through. Look at that. That's significant pull-through right there. The pull-out game is very strong now. So, yeah, and for questing knights, it's great, too, because their charge bonus, I mean, it's percentage-wise, they don't get as much from it, but received couch lance damage. That's all I see. It's just flashing before my eyes. Yeah, it's a straight-up buff for Knights Errant. I actually think Knights Errant and Knights of the Realm are both going to benefit from this greatly. Knights of the Realm are already probably some of the best cavalry in the game right now, which they should be. But they're super cost-effective, and with this change now, just making lance formation that much better. Yeah, look at this. One tattered Knights of the Realm was able to clean up the rest of the Chaos Warriors by themselves, right? And granted, it's like several units of tattered Chaos Warriors, but still, the fact that they're able to come in here and with Cycle Charge actually start to defeat these units. Perfect Vigor is a lot better with this. True, you can see how tired these guys are. They're already exhausted, right? Whereas the warriors they're fighting are fresh now, so that is going to impact their performance at this point. But yeah, with Grail Knights in Lance Formation now, or Pilgrims, or sorry, the Grail Guardians already have more mass anyway. I'll have to look at that, but
Smite them!
very, very interesting. Ah, I love that little punch right there. Just whoop, right through, right past. Oh, wow. Okay, so great patch overall, I would say. This is awesome. They've made Lance Formation quite good, I think.
Down!
Even if you suicide 3 Knights Errant into Empire gun lines, they'll still pay for themselves killing archers and gunners. It's true.
Knights!
It's true. It might force Empire to revert back to more mobile guns, but
Immediately!
pop a stone skin just before the charge. Yeah. I don't know what stone skin is, but looks like they might finally give up. Come on, lads, one more charge. Low armor factions will get nearly one-shotted by that charge. Yeah, it's going to be very strong. But look at that. Yes, we're shattering. Come on, lads. One more charge. Get it done. This is it. This is for all the medieval times. I'm so happy right now. This is so good. Oh, 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 oh. Did you see that? You see that? I swear one of those Chaos Warriors just got sent down to his shrine below. That was great. Lore of Life defense spell. Flesh to stone. That's right. Stone skin. I was like, what are you talking about? Okay, so that's great. That's actually really good. That's really good, actually. That might be my favorite change. So sorry, we were gonna do Cathay. That's right. Someone wanted to see Jade Warriors versus Great Swords. Wow. I once punted Vlad into that hole. Oh, that's fantastic. Just fantastic. Cool, cool, cool. So let's do... Yeah, let's do some Jade Warriors. And of course we need harmonies, and we need... Let's just go all in with Meow. Hang on. Yeah, let's do the shooting gun. That's fine. Yeah, it can happen on walls too. Flying monsters make dudes fly off and die instantly. Did you know that characters now, I believe, have a fall resistance? Hey, thanks, Marsubi. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I noticed during the early access for Champions of Chaos, I played a campaign battle where I had some aspiring champions on the wall, and they got punted off by, I think it was by rotflies or something. Anyway, when they fell off the wall, they took damage, but they got back up and like went back to their post. I was very impressed, I have to say. And I think it's true of heroes as well, because I mean, obviously they're like heroic infantry, basically. So I believe now heroes and lords and like, again, like aspiring champions, they will not die. I think, like, obviously if they go down into an impassable terrain piece like this, they're gonna die. But they shouldn't die just falling off walls, from what I've seen.
Jade Warriors!
Never seen an SEM die from falling. I believe it was the case in Warhammer 2 that they would, but again, in Warhammer 3 they do not. Neither do aspiring champions. It's great. I'm not gonna lie, it did give me a pretty good chuckle when I saw him just like saw the dude get catapulted off and just get back up like nothing happened.
Of course. Remember your training. Our ranks must fight as one. We shall prevail. Fight as one. This way.
Immediately!
Okay.
Never conquered!
Looking good.
Peasant archers!
Master of the winds!
Okay, I would expect Great Swords to win this pretty decisively, but we'll see. Vlad could die climbing the ladder in sieges. Yeah, I have seen that. No, formation attack doesn't display the melee defense buff, so like really these guys are at 51 melee defense right now from that, right? But doesn't seem to be helping all that much. Yeah, I know. I believe some chariot animations did get fixed where they will work correctly. So I'll have to try out some chariot units because I know some of them were not working 100% correctly. But yeah, I guess we could go through and look at all the landmarks too. I don't know. Someone probably already has posted a list of them somewhere, but. Yeah, this is more or less what I expected. Great swords are a specialized unit against like armored infantry, so this is what I expect them to do. Maybe we should have tested it with the Jade Halberds since they actually have armor piercing damage, but yeah, this is basically what I expected to happen. So I think after this, I'm gonna throw one game real quick with Medley. We'll do a quick land battle, and then I'm gonna call the stream. I gotta run, get some stuff done today. But Lance Formation versus Zombies, maybe I'll try that in a video sometime soon. But I do need to get some other stuff done today, unfortunately. So, yeah, we'll be tying this up very shortly. But Great Swords win. Not too surprised there. Yeah, it's true that the value trade... actually, no, it's a pretty favorable value trade for the Great Swords, because they're... I mean, now especially, they're only 300 points more than the 350 more, right? So, yeah. Yeah, value trade, I mean, I guess with the Harmony and without it. Yeah, with the Amplifier and without it, if maybe that's what you're talking about. It's more or less the same. But, yeah. Let's take a look here. I'm just tying up some last things, but... Big shout out to Medley for helping me out. I think I'm gonna go Bretonia, and let's have some fun here. Let's do Bretonia versus... or one of the undeads. Versus Empire or one of the undeads. And I'm going to think about my army composition a little bit here. I think I want to do something pretty classic. So let's go Lewin up in the sky. And take him with a relatively sizable kit. And then let's go with... Ooh, is he going coast? Okay, then we want to go wide. Let's go with wide knights. Bunch of archers. Mobs. And I have enough now to afford a spearman with shield. Or we could do Grail Relic. Or we could change things up even that much more. Do I need the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis? Probably not. Yep. Okay. Do need a caster though, I just realized. So let's take a... Let's do this actually. Let's cut 2 knights. Take a damsel with lore of life. And we'll do Earthblood. And Dwellers. Those 2. Let's do on a horse. Then probably want some shielded stuff. I can take shielded stuff now, which is great. Cool, that's a build. Not greatest build, but we'll make it work. Hopefully she doesn't have like 10 cannons. That would be bad. Did Dwellers get any nerfs? No, unfortunately. Nope, still quite strong, so I would imagine with buffs, Empire, Bretonnia, High Elves, now they all have access to Lore of Life, they all got a bunch of buffs. I would imagine all 3 of those factions should be pretty good, although in Domination I still think Bretonnia may struggle due to the capture weight situation. That's something I didn't really talk a lot about today. I think they really should just go through and change how the rule works so that it's more standardized, get more consistently across different factions. Lore of Dwellers remains in dominance. Yep, that's true. Wish Doomwheel got another mass buffed. I know, right? Wheels are a little sad right now, but that's okay. They honestly should get perfect vigor like the steam tanks probably, but let's not talk about that.
Champion of the lady.
All right. So let's do this.
My lord.
Mobs ready to eat some missiles up front.
Shields high.
Got our
What orders?
men-at-arms. Okay, caster on group 3.
Peasant bowmen. Armed and ready.
I should have brought some fire arrows to help deal with healing. I definitely did not
Ready to
think about
fire.
that, but would have been applicable here. That's okay. And then let's... do I want to do... Yeah, let's do this. Let's do anti-large cav here.
We are ready.
And let's do the anti-infantry cav here.
What do you bid? Sons of Britannia!
Okay.
Fighters!
Oh boy, looks like we got some deck guns.
Knights of the Realm!
And bombers, okay. Ooh, a Necrofex. Spooky.
We fight for Britonia!
Let's start moving these guys up. Let's start moving these guys up as well. We got a ways to flank up and around there, so definitely want to get these archers into range and start focusing those bombers down. Let's see what we can do here. I might just pop the Power Stone right away, honestly. Let's get a little Lion Shield also to help resist some of this.
Child of light. Your behest?
Ooh, got shotguns there. That's spooky. Okay, let's start focusing down some of these bomber mobs.
Knights of the Realm! The Lion!
Okay, let's also just start dropping some fat charges in here.
Ready to fire!
Because ultimately, all that matters is that we get the job done. So, okay, mobs can get in contact now.
For orders!
Let's start focusing those hand cannons. It needs to get out of there. Okay, you guys can just bypass. Come on. Turnabout. There we go. Oh, that was nasty. Oh, I just took so much damage there from something. Oh, that was bad. I am taking a lot of unnecessary damage here, but that's okay. We're going to be charging into some cheap halberds, which is definitely not ideal, but that's fine. I definitely screwed up something somewhere, but that's fine.
Sorceress.
Okay, let's have you guys outmaneuver. Got some bloats there. Yeah, we were not able to break through those zombie halberds, unfortunately. But that's fine. Let's drop dwellers. Wait on that a little bit there. Micro's a little sloppy getting on all these missile units, but that's fine. Okay, you two need to focus those guys. You guys. Yeah, things are going quite badly, you could say, but that's fine. Let's drop the dwellers right here to try and stabilize things, equalize things a little bit there. You guys also need to get into combat. Let's have you guys all focus those guys there. Okay, yep, left these guys in combat for way too long in lance formation. Let's see if we can salvage something out of it. Try and get through on some of these missile units. Lewin can just stay there. That's fine for the time being. Okay, you guys can pull away. You guys can pull back over here. Okay, let's have all the archers focus there. We just crushed that unit pretty decisively, so let's pull away with Lewin. You guys can drop a charge there. I think it's working. Don't tell anyone, but I think it is kind of working here a little bit. Archers probably need to start focusing on some halberds soon, honestly, but let's kind of unstack you guys, get you guys back over here. Lewin, come back over here, okay. And overcast that Earthblood right here. And give them a little damage resistance as well. Let's get Lewin and you into combat with that thing. Let's get you over here into them. Okay, those guys are dead. Let's start focusing there. Let's keep you guys in combat. Pull you guys all out. Okay. You also come charge through here. Maybe those start focusing there. Let's drop a nice debuff. Meanwhile, you guys can come around. Let's all rear charge the Prometheans, actually, so you can get in range to help Lewin. It looks like those guys finally got through to crush the gunnery mobs, so even though my micro is a little sloppy, maybe Lance Formation helped here. I don't know, maybe I would have won anyway, but... yeah, let's drop another Overcast Earthblood on this Cav Blob. And you guys, let's just all mass charge here onto Halberds, and let's see what happens. We've also got Men-at-Arms falling up from behind, so that's nice. Archers can start to focus Lewin, or sorry, Silustra. Lewin pop his missile resistance to resist friendly fire. The mobs coming back through. Spearmen can come back through. We get those routing units back into combat. Okay. Pull the knights out here.
Champion of the lady. To my banner.
And let's have the archers actually focus on the halberds. And I think we've got it.
I serve the lady. The Tree of Hearts shall...
All right. There we go. That ROR leadership. Oh, I know, right? That was pretty good, considering Medley said she's never played a land battle before. That was pretty impressive, all things considered. And, I mean, ultimately, the archers kind of carried me there to a degree, but having cheaper shielded infantry was nice. I mean, that extra, what, 100 points? 150 points? Yeah, that definitely helped. Knights of the Realm did decently enough. I mean, Lance Formation might have helped me penetrate into the missiles a couple of times, but ultimately I think it probably cost me more than it helped me. I don't know, hard to say. But it's definitely fun. And GG to my opponent there. Silustra on the Crab. Tough draw, in particular for the build I had. Like, I think I was fairly well prepared for this. But it was definitely a scary gun line for sure. Bombers and shotguns and everything else. Definitely very scary. Oh, yes. So, I have to say, very happy with this patch right now. Everything seems fun. A lot of the changes seem great. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some more Lance Formation games. But that's it for me for today, folks. Thank you all so much for the wonderful birthday wishes. Thank you guys for just being awesome people and for being a part of what we're doing here, what I'm doing here. It's been awesome. It's been a tremendous journey, and honestly, I'm so grateful for the great times I've had with you guys, doing tournaments, doing videos, everything else. Been a blast, so thank you. Yeah, I'm just glad to be here, guys. You're the best, and I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you all so much. That's it for me for today. We'll see you next time.